ECT Tech Nuggets, updating virtual machine hardware. Sometimes in the course of using GNS3, we need to change an existing virtual machine. Either it needs additional resources for new tasks, or the template itself needs to be updated so that machines made from it in the future will have those updated features or changes. It's not always possible to tell what we want when we make a template, so we tend to give it some resources, and then as those needs change, we expect users to go in and tweak the settings and update things and stuff like that. So we're going to go through that process briefly and talk about the pros and cons of what that means, and that way people will be able to go in and edit their resources on their child VMs and objects and things like that. On to the practical demo. So you see I've got GNS3 open here with a Windows server pulled out into a project. And there's two places we can make edits. One place is on the object in a project, and that will edit this individual object. And if I had 5 of them, I'd have to make that change 5 times. Or I can change the template itself, and any new objects that are made from that get pulled out will pick up the new settings. In our case, we're going to edit one object in a project. You'll note I have not attached that object to anything. GNS3 can get very unhappy if it has multiple Ethernet connections or even one Ethernet connection to something else before we start editing settings on it. This is especially true of Ethernet settings. It gets very unhappy about that. So we're going to leave it unconnected to anything, and we'll go up to configure. Now we've got kind of standard options here that you can see. Most what we're interested in are RAM and CPU. So Windows can be a pretty beefy operating system, and it doesn't usually like running with only 8 gigs of RAM. So we're going to give it 16 gigs of RAM, and we're also going to come down here and we're going to give it 3 virtual CPUs. Now, our Ghost in this case has 4 CPUs and 32 gigs of RAM. So we should be able to run an additional VM inside it at 3 CPUs with 16 gigs of RAM. Now, oftentimes virtual machines will oversubscribe, so I could say, hey, let's give it 16 virtual CPUs, but our Ghost hardware itself only has 4, and so the hypervisor would get to do some tap dancing trying to figure out how to get 16 virtual CPUs crammed into the 4 that our Ghost actually supports. And that can actually make the machine slower, not faster. So we try not to oversubscribe too much if we don't need to. On the hard disk tab, we can see the name of the hard disk file on our Ghost. It's a QCOW2 file. That's the name of the file that you would find out there. We also can mount an ISO if we've got a CD-ROM or a DVD image. Sometimes you will get boot images that come that way. This one's probably the most interesting. If I needed to give it more Ethernet adapters, I can come over here and dial it up to 4. Again, since we're not connected to anything, it'll allow that to do that. If we're connected to things with Ethernet connections, we're very unhappy about that. Advanced allows us to do other things with it. If we wanted to play with it, we want to give it optional settings where it boots and does things like that. We had a BIOS image, like a UEFI boot image or something like that. We could do that. And our usage tab is notes. It's a text field. We can add whatever we want to it for notes for that kind of thing. And that'll allow us to do this. Now, when we come over and we go to connect it, we'll notice we've got 4 Ethernet cards that we can pick from. And that kind of thing. Now, again, our template will have similar choices because I can say configure template, and the screen's going to look pretty much the same. We're going to get to edit and change all the same things about it and any new machines that get pulled out from there will get that. So let's say we wanted to go and add and make it 32 gigs of RAM in one gigantic VM. So we would add 31768. And we're going to leave it at 2 CPUs just for fun. So we'll just grab great big ones. Now, anything that's made from this will get the change that I just made in the template, whereas the one we already made is going to stay the same. It's already got 4 Ethernet cards, but our one over here, you can see, only has what we configured it for earlier. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. So changing a template changes everything after it. Oftentimes, we just want to change an individual machine because that tends to be more useful than changing all the machines. This won't change any future machines. That's it for this Tech Nugget. We'll see you next time.